Hello, cats and kittens. I'm Lex. I'm your crochet 5 years, and this is episode 3, One Pattern Many Times. I hope you had a lovely, lovely week. I'm recording early because next week's it's going to be very, very busy. I'll talk about that a little bit in my travel section, which is going to be a rotating section in my podcast because sometimes I'm traveling, I go through a phase where I don't travel at all. It just depends on how the cookie crumbles, you know? So just wanted to welcome those who are just tuning in and those who followed me. I am really, really excited and I have a lot to talk about, and I think we should get started. We're going to have some travel notes. I've got, wait a second, in my handy dandy iPad. So I've got traveling notes, I've got kitting it out, I've got a fitness project, got a ton of wearable art, some Spinmeister, I've got a new segment I'm calling Read All About It, and another one called Favorite Fiberist. And then we'll talk about if we're going to do a tech mini class. 2A is supposed to be out, but I'm still fiddling with that. What I think I'm going to do is, skip this. What I think I'm going to do is skip the tech class this week and come back on Tuesday and do a tech class because it will be relevant to our interest. And I'll talk about that further down in our podcast. Alright? Cool. As you can see, I hope the sound is a little bit better. I fiddled with my laptop. I'm using my laptop. I would not consider myself a Luddite, but I am, nor do I consider myself tech unsavvy, but I did not use my laptop to its full potential for a very long time. So it's kind of like exploring and learning all over again. So I fiddled with the sound, so hopefully it sounds better. And I moved things around in the apartment, so I'm facing you, and it looks a little bit more natural, and I don't look like a crazy person. Okay? Good. Lexicom on Ravelry, Lexicom on Instagram, looking 3, and like L3. And that is all I have to say about that. So, we'll start with traveling notes. The real reason I wanted to podcast so soon is because yesterday I took a trip to Lambtown, which is Dixon, California. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours from the Bay Area proper. And there were reasons that I was doing this. I believe I mentioned in the last episode that I wanted to rehome some wheels, and after I posted that episode, I went onto Ravelry to put and uploaded pictures of my wheel, and within the day it was sold. The wheel is Barbara Gordon. I name all of my wheels after the Bat family, and she was my she was my shacked sidekick. And there was a lovely lady, take it up permission to use her name, but yeah, a lovely lady took her off my hands, and we met up there because I'd never been to Lambtown, and she said she was heading that way. So I figured, I'll meet there, it'll be fun. And so it was kind of bittersweet. That wheel was a wheel I really, really liked, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it was good that I let it go. Take that how you will. So now that I've moved Barbara Gordon out of my life, I was feeling a little sad, and I figured I needed to do some walking around. So I walked around Lambtown. It's located at the Dixon Fairgrounds, which is interesting that such a small town has a fairgrounds. But it seems like a quasi-farming community, or it's just coming out of that farming community lifestyle. It felt like I was driving into the 60s 60s. I don't know. Okay. Here's where I'm coming from when I say that. I'm a military brat. I grew up on military bases. I lived in military housing. All military housing looks kind of like, well, it doesn't anymore, but up until about 15 years ago, it all kind of looked like housing out of the 50s or 60s, because that's when they were built. And trust me, after a while, you realize that this was an incredible old house. My point in saying that is just that it had that very 50s old school vibe. Now, that's a California-ism, because I'm speaking as though the 50s were a long time ago, and they really weren't. But in California, that's almost like it's been here forever, essentially. So, that's what it felt like driving to Dixon. Also, I passed Travis Air Force Base, and my parents were stationed at Beale, which is probably about 3 hours north of Travis, maybe a little more. And so we were stationed there for 10 years. So I'm really certain we traveled to Travis all the time. My mother loves to shop, and that's what she does. Wow, that was a huge tangent. Let me get back on track. So, Lambtown, Dixon, California, beautiful drive. Rehomed my deer wheel, and I felt a little sad. So I wandered around the fairgrounds. There was a really, really good showing. Some more famous yarn companies were there. I remember Greenwood Fiberworks, Wonderland Yarns, the Morrow Fleeceworks, which is a legendary wool processing company out here, and that was pretty awesome. And then they had sheep demonstrations. They dyed sheep rainbow colors, which was super cool. They were having a sheep to shawl competition that was really neat to watch. So it was a really, really nice fiber festival, and I got there early enough that it wasn't crowded with people. I don't think it was going to be crowded with people, but it was definitely not crowded with people. I found some free parking, and you have to pay $5 in the parking lot and then $5 to get in, so it wasn't that bad. I ran into some people I will be seeing next week at the Cognitive Fiber Retreat, but that is also in my notes. So what I need to do, is get back to what I did at Lambtown. So after dropping off the wheel, I walked around and found some. I found 2 things. I only bought 2 things, but I think I can make a decision. The first thing I picked up was some fiber, and I love all kinds of fiber. I tend to spend a lot of Lux fibers right now, but I'm a huge fan of Jacob and Columbia and not super soft wools. So, or unusual wools. Here's unusual wool. This is Hog Island beef curly, and I got you an ounce for $2, and it's not a small amount. Here's just some of it. Isn't that gorgeous? Isn't it? The crimp is amazing. Oh my gosh, I kind of want a bed or something out of this. I cannot wait to spend this. I'm thinking it would be a strongy, beautiful lace. I'm not sure if I'd get incredible definition, but I think I would get some really, really interesting work out of this. And I will probably do this on racing, which is my Spinellation video. So I got that. And Hog Island fiber is really rare. It's an endangered sheep breed, and I believe it was on an island, and then the animals have not been, husbanded for a very long time, and I think just now they've kind of been moved off the island, and people are trying to keep a flock and maintain their biodiversity. And one of the ways to do that is sell off the relevant aspects of that sheet, which is the fleece. I don't believe, because for the longest Hog Island sheep were not cultivated for fiber production. It's hard to find what you would consider a spinning fleece. You essentially get what you get, but I think this is a fine specimen. So there's that, the Hog Island sheep. And I went to, I was wandering through and I'd seen some stuff that was pretty easy to get, and there was a lot of beautiful stuff there, especially my insane jewel tones, which I'm so obsessed with. And this particular piece is also a testament to beautiful jewel tones. So I went to this person, the proprietress's stall, and she had these giant skeins of alpaca, and one strand was colored and one strand was black. This is beautiful. I almost thought it was a boucle. I think when I work it up, it's probably going to look more like a boucle, but it is incredible looking, just as it is. So let me show you. This one, John got it, and it's already 11 months in. This is this. This is this. This is Deep Creek Yarns, and the alpaca marl at 600 yards, 8 ounces. The colorway is Thunderstorm. It's incredible. Deep Creek Yarns has a website, and I will include that in the show notes. Deep Creek Yarns is the brainchild of the people who owned the Warner Mountain Weaver's House, and that's in Central California. Again, I'll try to post that in the links. And the interesting thing about it is this woman has like retreats and stuff all the time, and I've never been to Centerville. Let me rephrase. I don't remember if I've ever been to Centerville, but I've never been of my own volition. But that sounds like an interesting trip to make one of these days. So it's beautiful yarn. I think it's going to be a either a throw, which is less likely, or a really quick and dirty like shrug cardigan thing, which is more likely. And I bought it because I've worked with a lot of fine yarn lately, and I kind of needed a break. The colors are fantastic. It is incredibly soft. I'm used to alpaca in all its iterations and all levels of softness, and I gotta say, this is definitely within the super soft range. Lambtown was really great. I really enjoyed it. There was also a positive that there was a guanaco. There was a week where this young boy who really is shilling for his grandmother, and she had combine meals, which are really, really cool, by the way. And if I had not just destashed a meal and needed to destash another, and current circumstances being the way they were, I couldn't even go look, because I knew if I went to look, bad things would happen. So, but they have those wheels, and I've seen them, and they're really interesting. But the guanaco was really, really cool. The alpaca was lovely, and it was all in all just a really great day. So I really enjoyed Lambtown. Second item in my travel notes is I will be going to California Fiber Retreat next week, and I will be teaching a class, Rediscovered Stitches. I actually need to write up all my stuff and print out the notes for my students. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of people. I tend to get about 5-6 people in my classes. I'm hoping to get at least 5 or 6 people in my class this year. We'll see. I'm very excited about it. And I'll get to see some dear friends, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I might be going to the Up There for Keeping Warm release party. It really depends on how my decks are getting in a row. It sounds like, just for your information, I I've mentioned this tangentially, and I don't want it to turn into, you know, something weird, but I've got a couple of interviews this week, so hopefully everything will work itself out, and I will be in a much more positive place as far as my flavor is concerned. And that would be a wonderful way to top off this month, to go to the Verb for Keeping Warm book signing party. Christine, the proprietress of the Verb for Keeping Warm, wrote a book. I believe it's called The Natural Fire. I will link to that. It's really, really interesting. You can pre-order now. I think once I get myself together, I will be getting that book because I think that's really fascinating. And so those are my travel notes, and let us move to getting it out. I've got things that I've been working on. Sort of. Okay, the first thing is in my Verb for Keeping Warm bag. Is this the limited edition one? No, it's just one. Anyway, Verb for Keeping Warm. I wanted to make something for the book signing party. So I started what I thought was going to be a wrap. The yarn is cloth. Cloth. This is the first edition, and the colorway is earthenware. It's made out of plastic logwood. The dyes are plastic logwood and madder, which is really cool. And this is essentially a California blend of, oh, here it is, Forma Corriedale and Cardi. So it feels really, really nice. What I was planning on making a cardigan out of it. I don't think so. I think it wants to be a straight sweater. So I'm going to throw this out and restart. I don't have much time. I have 20 days, and I have other stuff on my list, but this is definitely something to keep an eye out, and I will be adding this to my rotating bag kits of things I need to get done. So, there's that. And here, yeah, here is another project in my Ziggurat. I have a ton of these little Ziggurat bags after I bought my Ziggurat, and I think once or twice a year I go and get another set of these bags because they're so useful, whether you're traveling or you're storing, and especially for my kids. This is kit number 13, I believe, and this is my throwaway cardigan. I call it a throwaway cardigan because it's kind of a homage, as it were, to the featherweight cardigan. So here is the beginning of my sweater. I just started, so I don't have a lot going on. Oh, see, there's my garbage keeper. Isn't that cute? So here's where I was. I didn't get very far from the last time I started. I started this after this last week's podcast, but between that time and this time, last time I picked it up, I only got about an inch. And there's my fabric keeper. The fabric keeper is courtesy of RK's mom, and she's on Ravelry, and she makes stitch markers. She makes really cool bags. I'll talk to her because I know her personally, and maybe I'll link her information on the show notes when I get a chance. She's really great. She's also going to be at the Cotton Pepperberry retreat, and she is actually one of the people that was in my yarn group when I was in Silk Alpaca. She's amazing. And she chose chili peppers. I think I asked her because I love hot sauce. So anyway, it's coming. It's very, very slow. This is going to be a different shape, I think, so it may not be called a throwaway cardigan. It may be an homage to a different kind of cardigan because it's going to be a longer neck. So we'll see how that works. The yarn is Pepperberry knits, which is a cashmere, sport-weight cashmere. And the colorway is mixed berries. Okay. So I've got 4 skeins of this. I'm not making this a priority. I think it's going to be one of the projects I work on when I'm at the fiber retreat. I was kind of hoping to have this done right at fiber retreat, but it's just not going to happen. I'm using a 4 millimeter hook. These are Knitter's Pride interchangeable Tunisian hooks. It's going pretty well. I'm just doing a Tunisian weave knit stitch all the way down. I was going to do the weave simple stitch, but I like the fabric that this gives a little bit more for this project, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm a little concerned because I think this might be a little too structured for the yarn, but I'm going to work a little bit longer and then I'll make a determination. So there's that. And here's where I say something that will be, it's not controversial, but it definitely has people going, really? That's the thing that makes sense. It doesn't really make sense, and they'd be right. I need to set up some more kits for cardigans and sleeping tops. I do have a project with my Tunisian socks, and I should have brought it over. I can't find it, which is a very big problem. So next week I'll bring that and we'll talk about it, and I'm sure I will get very nice, well-meaning emails telling me, you know, it's probably easier for you to use that. And yes, I do know that. Well, sort of I know that. Maybe next week I'll show you my knit sock that has been languishing for over a year. So those are the 2 kits that were being, well, those are the 2 kits I wanted to talk about in this segment. And now we are at, wow, I'm at 22 minutes. And now we are at the bucket list project, which is really the favorite project I'm working on this week. And I really, really am kind of excited about it. And the reason I'm excited is because it spins off to other conversations. So the project I'm working on is in this bag. It's my Guys Who Japan bag. I have a bunch of those bags. They're very, very cute. I know they are not as beautifully constructed as, you know, the really, really nice bags. And I have some of those. But sometimes you just want something old or something simple. So yeah, there it is. And the project I'm working on in this bag is my Kite, which is a shawl wrappy thing. And put this in a little middle. That's here's where we are so far. I'm using, I'm trying to decide what I'm going to call this. Cross stitch rib, I guess, I don't know. And then a regular Tunisian knee stitch, the stockinette, and then another an iteration, or the same thing, the same pattern. So I'm going to do that for a while. And the reason I should, and hopefully you can see that a little bit better. And then, okay. So I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm really excited every time I start the rib sections. I am hating, despising with every fiber of my being the stockinette section, which is very weird. I normally like to use stockinette, but it doesn't help that I'm using a 3.75. These are my Denise's interchangeable. And the yarn is madelinetosh Twist Light in the colorway. That is a pretty decent representation of the color. Blue, it's like a blue and got overdone with black, you know? I like it. It's very, very nice. It's actually my favorite color. But the reason I'm talking about this, the reason I brought this up, is because I wanted to talk about patterns sometimes you work over and over and over again. Now, this particular pattern is interesting because I worked the pattern about a year ago, and then a very prominent knitwear designer created a pattern, and he doesn't copy me. He's like legendary. I take his classes, okay? So it's not a question of anything like that. It was just an interesting thing. He came out with a project that looked a lot like what I was working on. Of course, I'm doing Tunisian, so it's not the same, but yeah. Here is the first iteration of my kite. This is, the yarn is Far, and the little bits of color are Ziggurat Studio, and the ink is super soft, or the soft it is, and the colors in it have all come up. So here is this ginormous wrap. Okay, this is the very first one. I'm gonna leave this because I'll talk about this later. I love this piece because it is remarkably squishy. The Far yarn, it's full Wolfolk, and that stuff is amazing. So this is how I pretty much wear it. It kind of creates its own shawl collar, and then I just put a giant shawl pin and kind of wear it as a wrap or a cape. And it's very dramatic, and it's remarkably warm. And I wear this all the time at home when it's cold. I don't want to turn on the heat. So here is the first iteration, and this is kind of like my winter Wonderland version. So it's huge. So after that, I thought, you know, I would love to have that in a lot of different. I would like to have that because it's a wonderful stash buster. That's the other thing. I believe that took 6 skeins of B5. Went through my stash, and I was just finding stuff that I wasn't using anymore, or stuff that I liked but it just wasn't getting used. Here's the second iteration, and it's a lot smaller of Kite. This is made out of Finito, and the Mare colorway, and the darker blue is Mericash from Puente del Este yarns. And this one, I was just trying to use up the stash because it was sitting in my yarn. It was sitting in my stash and it wasn't being used. So it's more scarf-like. It's a little more accessible, very much scarfy, and very easy to take along. This is kind of when winter isn't so bad. It's very, very soft and very, very squishy too. The stitches for this are that Tunisian stockinette I talked about, and a stitch pattern with the stockinette and a Tunisian frill that I'm kind of calling Ziggurat. And it's not really a made-up thing, it's just something I do. So it was those two, and it's interesting, you don't get a lot of stitch definition with either of the two yarns I used for the first project. Now I've got, another version of it. You know what? Not important. So after that, I wanted a version of it, a version of that kite for when it wasn't so cold. Those are really great, but they're really, oh, they're really great, but they're really, really warm, like over warm. So I dug in my stash and found some yarns that weren't as heavy, and I think that this is the one I am currently now that I'm over it. So it's bigger than some of the others because of the stitch pattern. Okay. The stitch pattern is again that the stitch stockinette and the star stitch. It's there's much better stitch definition. I used color shift chains to really kind of reflect my the happiness of spring. The green and blue are Manos, Uruguay, and Serena, which is their alpaca cotton. And I also used a Fino, which is a merino silk, and it's kind of fine. It's kind of a fine weight fiber. And for the star squares, the star triangles, stuff like that, I used Gleem, which is the Faux silk, and I also used some tosh Mo Light, which is a mohair blend that Tosh sells, and it's singles. So that turned out really great. And finally, I wanted a quasi luxe, and I had some leftovers of a bunch of different ones, so I decided to go for something. This is a lot smaller, but I like it quite a bit. This is my very, very small kite. It's definitely scarfy. And the yarn is, one of the yarns is a breathless, which is a Shalimar, and they're great colorways. And the other is some JoJo Lamb's cashmere and gray. And the colored yarn is madelinetosh, dandelion, and mandala, which is the blue, different shades of blue, and it's really cool. I like it. And I used the Ziggurat pattern for that triangle. So I wanted to show you that, just kind of let you know, and not really tell you what you already know, but really hammer home the fact that you can really be creative, even if you're doing the same pattern like 5 billion times. And that happens to me all the time. I like to make the same kind of sweater, but I don't always like it to look exactly the same. And that's how I change it up. I use different stitch patterns. I use different sorts of yarns, as you can see in that little montage, and in different weights of yarns and different sizes of projects. It just depends what you're looking for. So that was my bucket list project, and I really loved it. I really loved it. I got to show it off. I really love those projects. So I guess we get to move to wearable art. And I will start with this fantastic hat on my head. Please forgive my hair. There's a reason I'm wearing a hat. So please forgive my hair. I finished this. I started this yesterday. I finished it last night. This is my Starbright hat. It's a slouch. It was 64 stitches cast on, bottom up. I used the star stitch, which you can use in both crochet, knitting, and Tunisian, which is kind of awesome to have that kind of crossover appeal. So we use that. The yarn is some leftover hedgehog fibers and the silk merino. The colorway is graphite. I wanted something variegated. It wasn't important to see the pattern. You know, I might go back and do another one if I ever write this up. Yes, this is in the round. In fact, is that it? Yeah. This is where the join is. The round. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. You may not be able to see it, but it's a slouchy beanie. I started it around 3 o'clock yesterday, and no, that's incorrect. I started it on Friday and just started the twisted rib stitch for 3 rows, and then put it down. So it's not working on it anymore. And then I watched some TV and finished it last night. So I like it a lot. It's just a great hat. It fits well. It has a little slouchiness. You can go all the way down. But I really like it. I need another hat like this. I created this one because I have another hat that is kind of like this, but the colors don't work for me. They don't match anything in my Woolfolk Far. But this will go well with a lot of the things I have already. So I'm very, very excited about this hat. So there's that. I've also got my Ziggurat remix, which is the shawl I've been wearing through most of the episode. And here it is. It's kind of big. The wrap. It's in my Ravelry store if you're so inclined. And it's the reason it's remixed is the first version. First of all, back up. I was teaching a Tunisian class for the cognitive retreat a couple years ago, and this was one of the patterns I wanted to display. And this was before I kind of rediscovered. I always want to say that I didn't create this. It's just a rediscovery of the leaf stitch, and instead of the standard Tunisian knit stitch, I use the weave stitch there to build this really cool pattern, and I just love it. I think it's a really great pattern. I like to wear it a lot. The yarn is, let's see, the dark gray is Mirasol Sulka Legato in merino alpaca silk. The beautiful colored yarn in here is Malabrigo alpaca silk lace, and the colors are the Ba colorway, which is a yummy green, and the, is it Prussian green? Let me see. There's a profundo, which is a yummy blue. So I'm really excited. Love this thing. Wear it everywhere. We'll be wearing it when I go to Hatch Feet. So actually, both of these are going to be worn at Hatch Feet. So there's that, part of my wearable art. What else have I been wearing this week? I've been wearing the Popover a lot, and this might also be going with me to the February retreat. I just need to watch it again. So cool. It's so cold here right now in NorCal. Love your phrase. It is colder than it has been in a very long time. So I'm really glad that I got this off the hook. This is, again, made out of the Brooklyn Tweed's Quarry and the geode colorway. Very cool. Let's see. Anything else I think of? The kites. The kite, I've been wearing this a lot. And I've also worn the other kite, my spring kite. So it's going really well. I will be writing that pattern up maybe in the next month or so. It's just so easy. It's devastatingly easy. So we'll see how that works. So I wore the kites. Here is a scarf that I love to wear, and when I first stitched it, let me back up. I don't have pattern. I don't work from patterns, like ever. I get general ideas, and that's why there are a lot of yikes mistakes, and that is also why there are some really interesting pieces in my collection, because I don't follow the standard operating procedure, as it were. So let me grab this other piece. It will show itself. Are you really being subliminal? You know what? Please forgive my tush. So this looks a little bit like another project that has been making the rounds. But I call this my limitless scarf. It needs to be washed. Just look at that. And it's just, it's a really, really long, skinny scarf. I don't know. be better this time. I used a star stitch again, and I used the Tunisian stockinette on one side and the Tunisian simple stitch on the other side. And it was just to use up the yarn. This is Meadow from Fiber Company. Meadow, the color is Pepperberry. It's really, really lovely. I used about all of the skein for this. And this is probably going to attachment as well. Alright, is that everything? Actually, one more thing. Oh, this is one of my favorite pieces, and that's because the yarn is so rare. That's 7 months ago. I started going to a yarn shop that it's been around for a while. I just hadn't gotten out there. It's called a Yarnless Rabble. Beautiful yarn shop, and it's in Danville. The proprietress, Lindy, is so super friendly and so nice. And you say that about a lot of folks, but that's not everybody out here. And she comes across as she actually cares. I really like that. So anyway, I went to her yarn shop one day and I noticed she had this elusive yarn. So I picked up 2 skeins of it. It's very weird, but it's very awesome. It's Gaylor Yarns Cashmere, and this is a little scarf I made out of it. I call it Cinnamon Time. I think next week I might discuss the name and what it's an homage to, because it isn't an homage to a very famous pattern, even though it looks nothing like that famous pattern. So, yeah, I've been wearing this, and it's 100% cashmere, and good quality cashmere. It's like, it refracts. It's incredible. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a really tiny scarf on the neck. So those are all of the things that I've been wearing. That's been all of my wearable art. And so we can get through this part. We're moving on to Spinmeister. And at the moment, I am fairly monogamous spinning. Well, that's not true. But at the moment, I'm monogamous in my spinning. On Fino, which is my Astro Electric wheel, I am spinning 3 feet of sheep in their autonomous colorway, and it's just like little balls of differently colored sheep, colored BFL silk, and this is a special edition autonomous colors. I don't normally like autumn colors, but I thought these were beautiful. So here's how it's going so far. I finished the red and I'm on the gold. And what I did as I got towards the end of the red was to take a bit of it and kind of stripe it with a little bit of the gold so you have some sort of progression. I don't know how it's going to work. I think when I get to the end of this, I will probably, I wasn't sure what it's going to be, but I think what I'm going to do is do IMHO 5 with all of this. So we'll see. I'm spinning it semi-worsted because the frock is formed, but I'm spinning it in worsted style. So there's that for Spinmeister, and also the Hogshead, which if I don't spin it this week on Grayson, maybe next week I'll show you Grayson, but if I don't finish spinning this for the February retreat, I'm probably tweaking this for the February retreat. So, alright, do we have time for anything else? I think we have time for my last segment, which is in use. I'm gonna skip over read all about it and go to favorite fiberist. This week, my favorite fiberist is the owner behind the Cashmere Co-op. I cannot know his name, but I get emails all the time, and he's always showing some wonderful things. And about a month ago, 2 weeks ago, I got, right before my life kind of exploded, I got an email from this guy, and he for the longest he did knee therms. He used to be kneetherms.com, but he partnered with a group of cashmere breeders, and he launched himself as a measurement co-op, and he has a lot of really interesting blends at the shop. I will attempt to link to that in the show notes on his website, because it's a really interesting website, and he has a lot of interesting blends. So he sent me an email, like the mass email, not special, sent me where he was like, oh, I have this yak cashmere that is going on sale, like, it just introduced it, so I have it on sale. And unfortunately for you guys, it just ended, like, it ended yesterday, I think. But he's like, oh, so I have this on sale for 40% off. I thought about it, I pondered, I dithered, and I finally picked up some. So let me show you. Just for the record, I'm not one of those people who is going to make a habit of stashing some sections, because of the circumstances in my life right now, and also because I could see myself wanting to buy stuff just to show. I want to start being more mindful in my choices, so, and just putting it out there. So here's what I picked up, and you are going to frequently the cashmere cutoff. Yak. It is 70%, 75% yak, 20% cashmere, and 5% viscose. And the color I got was sunset red. It's gorgeous, isn't it? I've got 4 skeins of it, and 40% off was really nice. So that was like, and each of these is a 50 brand, and 270. So that was pretty incredible. Great, I think it is time for us to mosey on home. So, episode 3A is going to be after my fiber retreat. I will sit down and do a tutorial and kind of give you a blow-by-blow account of my Tunisian, or my crochet class, and that is how we're going to do things. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you later.